This is my second roll shooting Ferrania P30. I was curious about this film because I heard it was silver rich, unlike modern films. Like this is well, it's made in Italy, and this is bringing back a film that was uh, popular in the 50s and 60s with Italian cinema. So yeah, I'm just gonna share my roll, my second roll. Um, my first roll, I set the on my camera. I metered for I think around like an exposure index of 80, and followed the development recipe on the Ferrania website. Uh, got some great images, but I did lose some, and it seemed like the images were pushed a little bit. I mean, it seemed like they were like I had, yeah, that either market feasibility or whatever that they're marketing as like an 80 speed film. Um, but just by looking at the negatives, it seemed like I had pushed the film. So I was curious to try it as an exposure index of 30 and to do just like a typical box speed development with Rodinal, and just to kind of see if, maybe the true box speed of this is something like 30. And I don't know, I mean, whatever. I do know that I got more usable images on this roll. I'm not walking around with a spot meter. I'm just, um, moving pretty quick with a Leica MP and just using, you know, in camera through the lens metering. Um, all right, so let's just go through the pictures. Um, I haven't done this before, just sharing a roll. I like the idea because I do think of like a roll is like a little more like an album where it's like maybe a little more important to me than the average photographer to um, make a strong roll and whatever. Yeah, I'll just start sharing. All right. um, I like I like this one. Um, I like these tones, these lower tones across the couch and that back wall. Um, I mean, I like the subject matter, but I don't want to say that on every one. More kind of evaluating uh, the film. I'm trying to remember what color that couch was. Might have been red. Um, this one, I love it. Um, the tones of the pumpkin are lower than I expected. I think that, I think props to the naked photographer who told me that this film is actually ortho, and I definitely believe it. Especially, I mean, these are like bright orange pumpkins. I think I really like this the exposure and the development on these. I barely had to touch them. Again, it was a shot at a like exposure index of 30 and developed in Rodinal, like um, 7 ml of Rodinal to 500 milliliters of water for 13 minutes is the basic recipe. I was worried this one was underexposed, but I like the way the skin tones look on my older son. I don't love the photo because they're watching TV, but in terms of just testing the film, this kind of reminds me of, I haven't watched a lot of Italian cinema from the 50s, but uh, this to me this has that look, right, where the skin tones are attract the eye, and the rest of the background kind of sinks away. Nice contrast. Yeah, shooting with a at EI 30 is tough. I mean, this is fortunately I've got sunlight coming through the window, um, but still I'm at f2 on a lens that's not incredibly sharp at f2. I like this photo because I like that I'm shooting the backside of a stop sign. I like that shape. I like that I didn't lose. I was careful to try to not lose these values. The sun was actually shining on it, and I kind of thought this was an interesting shape in the bushes here. And as I was taking this photo, my cat came in, and I like that my cat stopped at the stop sign. Took the sign literally. I like this one because I kept a little bit of detail in this hedge. And then I like the way that the clouds changed texture from left to right. So I kept, I focused here on these leaves. I wanted that to be sharp. Um, I love this mailbox. It's got this plant growing up to it. It's been wrapped, kind of keeping it all together. Um, I wish that the maybe it's a little hard. This doesn't quite stand out enough compared to the background. Maybe it would have been good if I had a filter, maybe a different lens, a little more background separation. I don't love the composition, but I do like the film here. These are pretty tones. Contrast looks good. It's kind of growing on me. One of my themes is mailboxes because they're going away. In my neighborhood, there's a lot of individuality in each mailbox. They're not fancy, but each one's unique. And I don't know, there's a little bit of history in there. I mean, no one even gets this newspaper anymore. And they're so just like there and present and easy to not notice, but they're there. But for how much longer, I don't know. But yeah, I almost didn't take this picture because I was just like, boring. Um, but I don't know, I do find the pattern interesting. And those little leaves are nice. I was careful when I metered this to I metered and then as it was an average and placed the midtone, but then I made it a little bit darker because this was really a darker scene with kind of dark foliage. I think I got that right. I've edited this to kind of make it a little more dramatic, but it's kind of like the texture in the sky. Some of these silhouettes. I like this sunflower. It's like so tall. It's not, I mean, it's pretty skinny too, right? And I tried to place this bush in the background of the my laurel hedge so that it helped create that darker background, kind of that outline. I like the way the wood looks here. Yeah. I thought this would be cooler than it is. um, I like the exposure. I like the development. It's, I mean, this one's in the chair and this one's over here. Yeah, it's okay. Um, I edited this one a fair amount. Brought sank these values through the parking lot to make it darker, kind of make those lines pop a little more. Um, I have mixed feelings about that one. I mean, I like the door. Yeah. Something I really like about it and also don't like. Not sure. This one is, I wanted to actually play disc golf on that disc golf basket, but I didn't want to cross this rope. See this rope right here? Um, and then I noticed this handprint right here. So that became my picture. Back to the film. I like it. I didn't like this one enough to even edit it. You can see where I'm scanning it in. I haven't even cropped the edges. I think I just found this sign and was kind of interested in it. It took me a minute to, then I took this photo. Private property, no trespassing, no Taco Bell entrance. Um, but still just not strong enough of a photo. Maybe if I, yeah, maybe something like that, crop in tighter. Yeah, I'm kind of just kicking time while my kids are at like a intro to gymnastics class. I just wanted to see how it would texture this grass, the parking lot. Was interested in this thank you sign here in the middle of these bushes, which led to these two photos, and I picked this one. I like this one better. Mostly because this car got in the way. I didn't like that car there. I do like the tones on that plant. And yeah, I'm not an expert. Like, an expert is like Stephen Schaub at Vigil Revolution, um, who, you know, not coincidentally, right? P30 Ferrania had him as one of their test shooters. Um, if you go to their website, right, some of those photos are his. Right, that's an example of somebody who could really tell you all the differences between this film and another film. I'm at least just trying to show you some examples. What caught my attention here is just the texture in the brick in the building and this cool door, the graffiti, these lines. Yeah, I like how it turned out. Not, yeah, I'll say that. I took two. This one I focused on the writing, and on this one I focused on the wall. And I preferred the one where I focused on the wall and the door better. Um, I like these cracks and kind of this line these cracks made. and it followed it up to these trees against I don't know. Yeah, I liked the way the sunlight was coming in on this. I like that a lot in terms of just the you know, call it image quality coming out of the film. Yeah. This one was, um, it's actually, I left it as a negative. I went to invert it and I was like, wait, I liked it better the other way. It's like, it's like this is the pavement. Um, kind of like the way it makes the leaves dark like that. Yeah. Here was another shot in that same puddle. And I like the other one better. Now, my son and I are at um, an art exhibit where they're showing woodblock cuts and to make very contrasty prints, right? So I kind of liked that I was copying that style and made kind of a black and white type, almost like a print from a woodblock. But I also kind of had to because it was really dark in here. And then I just grabbed some of my son playing on the deck in this cardboard box. And I knew the cardboard would make for an interesting subject on this film. I think my favorite one's this one where his hands are poking out the sides. And again, if I'm just trying to describe what I really like about the film, I think it's these darker tones. Um, they're very, I don't know, smooth and gorgeous and set a nice stage for your subject to really pop. My son wanted to go on a walk to this place, and so I just wanted to take a picture and a little bit of remembering a walk that we went on. I like this mailbox. Um, I've got a lot of pictures of it. I like the textures and even like the shape, the way this thing bends. This time though, I had my son open it, an action shot in my world. And this was just, I was at the end of my role and I wanted to be done so I could walk in the house and develop it. But my son greeted me at the door, showing me a Lego that he had been missing and finally found. Um, it's always nice to take these photos when people are in doorways. The light's always good. Um, my final thoughts on this film is I think I would be more excited about it if I didn't know the price or if I knew if the price was cheaper. Um, I really like it. Shooting at an exposure index of 30 is a bit tricky. I was often shooting at f2, 2.8, f4, and many of these were taken at 1/15th of a second, um, which is nice on a Leica um, film camera because 15th of a second you may know is like there's a sound to it that's pretty neat. The shutter makes a unique sound at 1/15th of a second. Um, but I do worry about my losing sharpness or moving subjects or whatever. So yeah, and I mean, looking back on my first roll where I shot at an exposure index of 80 and I developed it with more of a push. Um, I really like some of those too. I'm going to stick to like just showing this roll. Um, and I think I did have one that I really thought I had underexposed, and it turned out all right too. So I don't want to go on record and say this isn't the real true speed is 30, but just in terms of like a baseline for people who want to shoot this, and something I've read from a lot of people is this is like a super contrasty film, and I think if you shoot it at 30 and relative to their recipes on their website, kind of pull it a stop. And then, you do take into consideration that it's an orthochromatic film, and your oranges and your reds are going to drop in tonal value. I think you'll have good luck with getting a lot of usable negatives. Um, yeah, and it is pretty cool to shoot a film from Italy. The packaging is premier. Um, and now that like ADOX Silver Max and you know, Scala 160 are not around, um, it's cool to be able to shoot a silver rich film. I wish I knew more about what it really means. Um, if I just had to take a guess, I think it's that like these places where right these the dark places here on the negative are the light places. And it just seems like um, the tonal curves, the tonal transitions in the the parts of the negative that have only a little bit of exposure. Um, it just helps to have that extra silver to make it just create a smoother tonal range through the shadows. I don't know. That's my, this is something I'm trying to learn. I thought by throwing myself at it and in it, maybe I might learn something. So I usually shoot Kodak double X, so it'll be interesting to, or 52-22, right, as it's called. Um, yeah, I'm gonna go back and shoot a roll of that next and look at it, and after having spent some time on these, although I think that one is relatively a classic film, um, not as silver rich. And again, don't quote me on this, but I think it's probably got more silver content than like modern Tri-X and HP5. Yeah, so much to learn. But okay.